Let's head up now to Ed Curran. He's joining us with new information. Meteorologist Ed Curran. Hi, Ed.
And thank you very much, Kate. You know, one thing about this whole system is it went through, and yes, there's a loss of property and there is some loss of life that we know of. But when you look at the size of this tornado, this is a wedge tornado. And as Mary Kay's been telling you, this is unusual not only to see in our area, it's unusual to see in any area. There aren't that many of these throughout the course of a year. Now, you can't look at a tornado and automatically come up with an idea of how strong it was. That's done after the fact. But many times wedge tornadoes are very powerful with wind speeds that get up to what we call the EF4 or EF5 level. That's the enhanced Fujita scale. Theodore Fujita was a scientist and a researcher on tornadoes, and he was right here at the University of Chicago for many, many years. And he came up with a scale that tells you how strong the twister was by the damage it leaves behind. This is one of the few things where you measure the power of something based on the damage left behind. An EF1, it starts actually with an EF0, but an EF1 is 86 to 110 miles per hour, an EF2 from 111 to 135, EF3 above that, EF4, the tornado that we saw in Washington a year and a half ago, that was an EF4, that's up to 200 miles per hour, and then an EF5 over 200 miles per hour. Now, how do we figure out just how fast it was going? The teams from the National Weather Service will be out in those areas tomorrow. They'll be taking a look for damage, the type of damage, and what they look at is not only was a building destroyed by the tornado, but what type of a building it was. And those are all weighted differently on kind of a scorecard as they go through. So if the tornado damages or destroys a frame house, that's weighted one way. A brick house, that's another way. A brick structure that's a commercial building is weighted another way. Taking all that into account, they can then take a look at the area and figure out just how powerful the tornado was on the EF scale, or enhanced Fujita scale, as Dr. Fujita's scale was changed a few years ago to use some of the knowledge that we now know about damage from tornadoes. So it's a fascinating process that they'll go through, and they'll also go through the process of figuring out how long the tornado track was, how many tornadoes were involved, and if the same tornado lifted up and came back down and that sort of thing. So the National Weather Service team will do that tomorrow. But looking back on this kind of tornado, I just want to say that northern Illinois was slated to be in an area, forecast to possibly be in an area for large tornadoes today. And they were absolutely right. The Storm Prediction Center not only did a fantastic job of telling us that this could happen today, but they went back and started warning of this as long as 5 days ago. So we had so much warning. So when you hear about people going to a basement and that saving their lives, it's not just because the warning they heard today that they got on a weather radio or on a cell phone, but it's that news in the back of your mind that this could happen in northern Illinois on Thursday. Hats off to them and a thank you to them for the long warning we had of this terrible situation.